Hello, hello, and welcome. Good to have you join us here today. We're gonna give it a minute or two as we let people flood in, but we're excited to have you join us, and we're excited to be here with Katie Thomas today.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Awesome. Looks like we're getting a good number here. So I'm gonna jump to the next slide because it's always fun to play a little bit of tell us where you're from. And also, if you could, what is one word you would use to describe how finding advisory clients feels sometimes? This is the theme of our conversation today, so we want to know what you have to say about that. Looks like the chat is available. Awesome. Where are you joining us from, and what's some one word that describes finding advisory clients? Awesome. We
We
got
have
Riverside.
Rusty. Hey, Rusty. I'm in Olathe, Kansas too. So
Nice, nice. From Ontario,
what do
joining
you,
from Mexico. Are you on a vacation, Chris? That's very fun.
we have one about advisory clients inconsistent from Rob.
Oh man, I've heard that before.
Yes.
He splits his time, so he has a place in Mexico. Very fun.
It'd be really nice to just
Yes.
split your time between different locations, depending on the weather, how you're feeling.
Well, especially being from Canada, I'm sure in the cold, it'd be nice to get into the sunshine.
For sure.
Look at all this great here. Another day at the park. San Diego, Charlotte. This is awesome. Very exciting to see everybody come in here. We're going to give it another 30 seconds or so, and then we can kind of jump into some of our material. Hi from Bermuda. Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you all. We're very excited to be meeting with you here today. I'm gonna do a little bit of an introduction and kind of kick things off. Many of you may have met me before. I am a client success rep here at Reach Reporting. And I've been here for about 6 years now, which is so crazy to think. I work with accounting and advisory firms, and generally I'm in the weeds with you. I'm helping you understand how to leverage Reach to the max, use automated reporting and visual storytelling to really help your clients. A couple things. This is a webinar, of course, and therefore, you're all on mute. And so we're just kind of keep the background noise down, but we do want to interact with you. So we have the chat box, we have the Q&A box. We want to make sure that you get all of your questions answered. We will try and touch on them a little bit throughout the presentation, but we'll make sure by the end of the presentation that all the questions get answered. So please throw them in there as they're coming to your mind, and we'll definitely get to them. I want to quickly note that we do hold many weekly webinars. So if you're new to Reach and you want to understand how to use Reach, we do have a webinar page. It's reachreporting.com/webinars. And there you'll find our regular training webinars and some special webinars that we've held in the past, similar to this one that you might be interested in. And so really think to kick things off now, if you're here, you're likely understand the importance of marketing and visibility. But for many firms, the message still sounds too much like the firm and not enough like the buyer. And so we spend so much time trying to explain what advisory is and what that we never really get to the part that the prospect really cares about. And that is, how can you actually help me with the problems I'm dealing with right now? And so this is where today's conversation is going to really get fun. We're going to learn about how firms can use AI to pull real buyer language directly from your discovery calls. We're going to learn how to build an entire month of smart marketing and sales assets from it. And then we're going to pair that messaging with visuals and reporting that makes advisory feel tangible, understandable, and easier to buy. All the while, also creating more natural conversations that build trust and move prospects towards action. And so this is why I'm so excited to introduce our guest today. Katie Thomas. Katie has spent years helping accounting firms figure out something that's really simple, but actually is really difficult. Sounds simple, but is really difficult. How do you explain the value advisory in a way that business owners immediately understand? She's the founder of Leaders Online. She's a CPA and one of the most recognized marketing voices in the accounting profession, helping firms grow through digital marketing systems that actually connect with buyers instead of just sounding polished. Because the truth is, most firms do not struggle because they lack value. They struggle because buyers cannot clearly picture the value they're ready to share. And so, just to kind of kick things off, Katie, before we get into the actual system, why do you think so many firms are still struggling to get traction with advisory marketing?
Well, in my experience, it really just comes down to they can't get traction because they're simply using language that their firm understands, but not necessarily their buyers. So that's really what we're going to be focused on today. And so, as Arthur mentioned, you're going to be learning a system, specifically how you can use Claude Cowork to market your firm by using the exact language that your buyers use and the visuals that will actually connect with them. And how we're going to do that, we're going to dive into. But before we do, I just want to hit on a couple of things. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let's see, make sure everyone can see it. All right, we all good there? Everyone can
Yeah, it's
see the
coming in
screen? Okay,
awesome.
great. So I'm going to be using one example throughout the presentation today. And that example is going to be a firm that does want to attract advisory clients. If you're on this and you're like, you know what, I really want to attract more tax clients, or maybe you join this because you actually have a different type of business altogether, you don't have a firm, that's totally fine. You can update everything to be applicable to you, but for consistency, we are going to keep one example throughout, and that'll be a firm looking for advisory clients. The other thing I want to say is that we will be using Claude Cowork in today's presentation, and I'm going to be giving it prompts. You don't need to worry about writing down the prompts or trying to memorize them, because at the end, there's a handout that you can download that covers all the prompts I used, all my folder structure, any sort of handouts that are relevant to what we're talking about. So you don't need to worry about any of that throughout the presentation. I really just want you guys to be able to absorb it, take it in, and not have to be like frivolously taking notes. And then, of course, you can ask questions throughout. As Arthur said, we're going to be taking questions. A lot of them we will answer at the end, but feel free to ask them throughout. And if we have time, I'll go ahead and just jump in and answer them. So with that, the most important thing, though, is that you enjoy yourself, because webinars should be fun. And I am excited to go ahead and give you guys this information. So when it actually comes to selling your advisory services, as we said, the language, the marketing, it has to really sound like your buyer and what they're using. It also has to allow them to visualize what they are going to buy. And the problem is, when advisory is hard to picture, it gets compared to bookkeeping. Now, Reach Reporting, as we will see, it's going to give you that visual to help you show what advisory truly is. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But back to that first problem where marketing, it doesn't sound like your buyer, let's talk about it. And I think the best way to do this is to give you an example, because as business owners, we really know what we do and what problems we solve. But a lot of times we explain it in our language rather than our buyer's language. And so imagine you go to the doctor and they're like, you know what? Your upper respiratory system, it's experiencing inflammation due to viral exposure, rather than them just saying, you know what, you have a cold. It's the exact same thing, but whenever you're hearing you have an upper respiratory system that's experiencing inflammation, you're starting to be like, oh, wow, what's going on? But if they say you have a cold, you're like, okay, got it. It's also like if I told my 4-year-old, hey, I really need you to optimize your nutritional intake instead of just eat your vegetables. Same thing. My 4-year-old, she's going to understand eat your vegetables a lot better than I need you to optimize your nutritional intake. And so this is what we see all the time when working with firms. They'll say things like, we offer strategic advisory services, or we provide comprehensive accounting support, or we're a trusted financial partner. In those statements, they're absolutely accurate. They're absolutely accurate. But that's not what the business owner usually is actually describing what they're looking for or what they need. So they're actually saying things as the business owner like, I don't know what our margins are, or cash feels tight even though revenue's up, or you know what, I'm making decisions, but I don't really have good numbers. So while the language on the left slide is technically correct, the language on the right, that's what's going to connect. And this disconnect is where the problem lies. So now this brings us to the question, how can you bridge that gap? And these comments, I'm loving them. I'm in this picture, it feels. Do not feel bad if you're saying these things, because again, they're accurate. It's just, we want to make sure we're also saying things that actually connect with our prospects. So what can we do to stop guessing what our buyers are saying and instead start knowing what to say? So your marketing language and your visuals, they connect with your buyer. Well, luckily, you can uncover this language that your buyers are already using, and it's hiding in your sales calls. On this webinar, we're going to call them discovery calls. So know that going forward, we call them discovery calls, whatever you call them, replace it with that. And today I'm going to show you how to use those conversations powered by AI to strengthen your marketing and then pair that messaging with clear reach reporting visuals. So your advisory offer is easier for prospects to understand and ultimately say, yes, this is exactly what I need. And if we've not met before, my name is Katie Thomas. I'm a CPA, and I've spent my career at the intersection of accounting and digital marketing. So for over 8 years, I've run a marketing agency where we work with firms and fintech companies. And so specifically when working with firms, they often say, you know what, we want to attract more advisory clients. Let me know in the chat, is that you? Are you looking for more advisory clients? Or if you're not, let me know like what type of clients you would love to attract. And I remember when I started the agency and we'd begin working with a new firm, they would say, we want these advisory clients. And I'd say, okay, great. Tell me more about this. How are you attracting them today? What are you doing for your marketing? And they would usually start describing advisory using the kind of words that we just looked at, those same phrases. And as a CPA, I did understand what they meant. But I started digging deeper and asking, okay, but what are your prospects actually saying? Are they calling you and saying, hey, Rob, I need strategic financial decision support? And the answer was no, not exactly. And so I said, you know what? Can I start listening to some of your discovery calls? Would that be okay? And once I did that, what I realized was the language and the marketing often sounded nothing like the conversations they were having. So yes, firms were saying things like advisory services, strategic support, and trusted partner. And they were putting this in their marketing content and in their assets, but the business owners were saying, cash feels tight. I don't know my margins. I'm making decisions without good numbers. I get reports with just a bunch of numbers on them. I don't know what they mean. All those things were coming out. And until recently, this took a lot of time. You had to sift through all these calls manually, and then you had to build your marketing assets from scratch. And yeah, it was a lot of time, but also just, it wasn't fun work. It was very manual. But today, that's what I'll show you how you can automate it. And I see in the chat, we have people looking for advisory clients, systems implementation changeovers plus advisory. We also have someone looking to do tax and tax planning. So again, all this works. You can just update the prompts that you'll get at the end. All right. So here's exactly what we'll build. We'll build a full month of marketing from 10 discovery calls using Claude Cowork. And this will include a message bank, a campaign strategy, a campaign kit, and sales tools. You're going to walk away with posts for LinkedIn, direct message, conversation starters, and sales tools like discovery questions, scripts, objection handling. I'm really excited for the sales tools part personally. And one thing I want you to keep in mind as we go through this is that strong messaging is just one part of the equation. Using your prospects' language helps you with your marketing to connect, but the visuals, that's what help your prospects understand the value faster. So this is where reach reporting will really plug in and be very powerful to you, especially as you're trying to make advisory feel more tangible. And on that note, I feel like if, we even pulled like, what does advisory mean? And maybe we should do that. Just leave in the chat, like what does advisory mean to you? Because there really are a lot of ways people use to describe it. So that's where we pull our prospects' words, we pair them with reports, and it's like, aha. Now, the time investment to really go build the system, it's about an hour a month of your time, and then 15 to 30 minutes a day to get really good results. So that's what you're looking like. And Alicia shared advisory is future planning. I like that. Anyone else want to share what their definition of advisory is? I tell people that it's like a GPS. I'm looking at the end goal and getting you there. Melissa, that's really great. I can picture that in my mind. Okay. Now, this is really the most important slide in the whole presentation is AI accelerates drafts, but humans drive trust. And I'm really curious to hear from you guys on this webinar if you've seen any AI generated content that just feels very robotic. This could be social posts, this could be videos, photos, anything. Let me know in the chat, like what your experience is. Yeah. And there's 90%. And I know for me, for example, I'll take podcasts. I used to love solo episodes on podcasts because I would feel like I really got to know the person. But now, while I still love some of them, there's been this shift where one of two things is happening to a lot of them. One, the podcaster has just totally automated everything. They've cloned their voice. And so they're not even showing up to record. It's simply a robot at this point. Or two, they're still recording, but their script is so AI generated that I can tell what AI platform they're using to generate this script. And it just totally disconnects you. Totally. And so that's not what we're going to do today. You are going to stay involved in the process, and you're not going to become one of these, as we call AI slop marketers. That's not what we're going for. So AI is great for spotting patterns, organizing your information, draft variations, and build this structure, but you're still responsible for positioning, accuracy, voice, adding in your UNIS, which we'll talk about, creating and sharing visuals, those kind of things. So AI cannot do everything. It's going to help and be great in this process. But if you remember from one thing, please remember that you or someone on your team or someone you hire, you're still needed in this process. Don't just say, here you go, AI, do ABC, and then I'm not reviewing anything. I'm not adding any sort of like myself into it. That's not what we're here for. So AI can do a lot, but just stay involved. Now, we do have to give AI some context. So before it creates anything, we are going to need to give it two things. And first, we're going to have to give it discovery calls. So if you're not recording your calls right now, I recommend you start. And if you're like, hey, I'm on this webinar, I haven't recorded anything, I want to do this process that you're showing me, that's fine. What you could do is just go back to, say, your past 10 calls, type up some notes of what happened, what you heard, what problems they had, and that'll be enough to get you started. And then you can start recording from there. So we'll have to give it the discovery calls. And then second, we're going to give it a brand guidance pack. So what this will do is really keep the outputs aligned with how your firm wants to sound and how you want to position your services. And I'm going to actually talk a little more on the next slide about this brand pack, but know that your brand pack, it can and should evolve over time. Again, I'll show you what I included on mine so you can get a sense of what this looks like in practice. And this too, the brand pack, it's going to be available after the webinar for download. So once again, don't worry about trying to like write down everything that's included in it. I'll give that to you. So that's it. Two things: you give the system, your calls, your brand rules, and then everything else will get built. So for my brand pack, I just made a Word document that it contains some general information and rules needed to really create our marketing assets in a way that aligned with my firm. So, for example, I gave it my target audience and buyer profile. I told it more about this target audience. So let's say I don't want to work with dentist, or I don't want to work with lawyers, or I do want to work with lawyers, or I do want to work with dentists. I can give it that information. I let it know the services, the main goal of the marketing. For example, did I want to get people on an email list, or to fill out a form, or to join a webinar, or book advisory discovery calls? For this, it was to book advisory discovery calls. I also gave it some core messaging angles. I said, hey, only pull language from prospect discovery calls. So I don't want AI to go make anything up. I really want it to rely on these calls. And then I give it some voice and tone guidance. For me, I always want to feel very warm but direct in how I communicate. But if you're funny and sarcastic, you can tell it that, and it'll help bring you into this marketing. And then finally, I gave it some formatting preferences, content rules, and just so that it starts to, again, kind of sound and look like this firm that I'm doing marketing for. So the big idea here is that the better your brand pack, the better your outputs. It gives AI the context to build these drafts so they sound more like you and your firm, and it's more useful from the start. But that's it. So we have our brand pack and our transcripts, and then the rest Claude will actually create. And we're going to go through each of these individually, but at a high level, we'll start with these discovery calls in the brand pack. And then we'll use Claude to actually build a message bank. And then that message bank, it'll feed the campaign strategy. The strategy will feed the kit. Humans handle the distribution and conversations, and then the measurement will tell us what to improve. And each step, it really feeds into the next. So throughout the process, AI will, excuse me. We have AI really running this chain, and then you'll review and decide, hey, is this right? Is this not? Sorry. Excuse me. Okay, so we'll actually start building live. One second here. I'm going to grab my water bottle. I thought it was right next to me. I can see. Okay, got my water bottle. It was right at my feet. I was like, I know I had it. Okay, thank you, Guy. Appreciate that. So I would love to know, has marketing ever felt kind of difficult or confusing or kind of bleh before? Have you ever experienced that? Where it's maybe you're hey, I'm going to post, or I'm going to, I don't know, start a newsletter, or maybe I'll work on my website. CRC for accountants, never, Rebecca. So that's really what we want you to get from this, is we want you to have a system so it doesn't feel reactive. You're not just staring at a blank screen or creating generic content, or hey, one day I'm doing this and one day I'm doing that. With this system, you're going to get buyer language automatically pulled, strategy built from real patterns, and then drafts ready for review right away, pretty much. And then marketing and sales will also be aligned. So that's what you're going to get in a whole hour. And now we'll look at this after. Now, the first thing we'll do is we need to just do a basic setup if you don't have Claude Cowork. And if you don't have it, it's really easy to use. It's like a staff or a team member is what you can think about it as. So many of us are familiar with AI, like ChatGPT for brainstorming or maybe researching and that stuff. But Cowork, it really takes it a step further. It does a lot of the doing. So you can say hey, I want you to go create this PowerPoint and put it in this folder. and remove the logo from this page, add this logo there. Or you could say, here are a bunch of bank statements and a cash ledger, and do a bank rec. It works on your business's files, follows your standards, and completes tasks. Most people, when it comes to AI, they're still pasting things into ChatGPT, copying and pasting back and forth. Cowork is like actually doing the doing. You're not having to do any of this copy paste stuff. So when it actually comes to using Cowork, you have to go get it set up, and that's super easy. So right now, if you go to Claude, you can download it on your desktop, and it's $20 right now for the lowest paid plan. You can start there. It'll let you get going. You can increase your plan over time if you want more access to use it more, but totally can just start with the $20 a month plan. And once you actually download it, so it'll look like this. It's on your computer, pretty basic interface. What I recommend you do is create a folder on your desktop. So here's my desktop. There's one folder here. I just call it Claude Cowork. And why we want to create a folder for it is with Cowork, you can go in and you can actually tell it like, hey, go in this folder, do this, do that, as we talked about. So inside my Cowork folder, someone just asked, is this same as Claude.ai or Claude Cowork different? So Joyce, you can use Claude on the browser, but you'll want to actually download it and have it on your desktop to use Cowork. So inside my Claude Cowork folder, which you'll get all the folders and everything I'm creating as part of that handout at the end, I created a couple more folders. I put transcripts where I included 10 discovery calls. I do recommend that you sanitize them if you want to pull out like any confidential information. It's up to you. And then I included that brand pack guide that I made. So I added my inputs, and then the rest of these, they're going to be used to organize our outputs that we do together. So that's really it. You download Claude, pull it up. So you just have Claude. You create your folders that you have examples of in the handout at the end of today's webinar. That's it. You're good to go. And you'd be off to the races. You can start inputting prompts. Okay. Thanks, Wes. Yes, Claude has 3 things: chat, cowork, and code. Exactly. So we have our inputs and our folders all done. Now it's time to create our first output, which is going to be a message bank. And a message bank, this is something that everyone should create, whether they have any sort of AI tools that they're using or not. This is going to be where we take all those discovery calls, our prospect language, and we turn them into something usable. So what this message bank does is it organizes the real language your buyers are using. It pulls out the biggest pains, the outcomes, the objections, the triggers that make them reach out. And so now we don't have to guess like, hey, what do our prospects care about? We actually will know. And when I think about this message bank, it's really the foundation of everything. It's not going to be a final asset, but it's source material that makes the rest of your marketing feel more accurate, specific, and grounded in this real buyer language. So what I will do is I'm actually going to pull up Claude, and I'm going to show you on a project that I completed so that we can keep this webinar moving along. And we don't have to wait for things to load, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a prompt. And again, you'll get all these prompts, but basically I'm going to tell it what to read from what folder and what to create and where. So I will tell it, hey, read the transcripts, read my brand pack, and I want you to create a message bank. I want you to extract the strongest repeated buyer language, themes, objections, and decision triggers from these discovery calls so that they can be used to market CFO advisory and CAS advisory services for for-profit businesses, owners in the $1 million to $10 million range. I give it some more information. Again, I tell it to pull out the top 10 pain points, desired outcomes, objections, buying triggers. I give it everything that I want. I run it. And then it says, okay, great. I have your message bank. Now, what you're looking at here on the side of the screen, this will be saved directly on your desktop. So I have a message bank here. I'm showing you in this is called the text edit. But if anything seems off as I go through this, or as you go through this whenever you do it yourself, you can just pull up that document right from your computer that's saved there, and you can edit it directly. And then if you press refresh, it'll be in your text edit. But now what I'm doing, now that I have our message bank, I am looking at a document that is taking all that information, all the patterns across the call, and organizing them. And when I look at this, I can start immediately seeing things like, okay, people, they say a problem is the reports tell them what happened, but they didn't help them decide what to do next. Or they say revenue's up, but cash feels tighter than it should be. This is a lot more helpful than me just saying, like, I think that this is a problem. You actually know. And then it gives us more of these. And then it tells us, okay, the desired outcomes. They want to know what's actually safe. And as I'm reading this, it's like, okay, that makes sense. Can they afford this new hire? Can they afford to make this purchase? They want fewer surprises. I want to stop spending mental energy on this. So it gives us information about what they want. It also gives me objections, which objections are great because it tells us what we need to address, not only in our content, but then, of course, on those calls. But if we could pre-address some of these objections in our content, then they don't even have to become an objection that we have to deal with whenever we talk to someone. And then another thing I really like to see is buying triggers. So what really got the prospect to act now? Usually, it was like a decision that they needed clarity on, or the business growing faster. All of these are super helpful, as well as like some misconceptions that they might have around the services. And then finally, one other thing I wanted to point out, because you will get all of this to download, is confidence levels. I think confidence levels are great to pull because basically we gave it 10 calls and something might have popped up multiple times as it organized here as high confidence, or it might have popped up once. Just because it showed up once doesn't mean it's not important. It could be very important, but it's still important for us as like we're reviewing this to be like, okay, is something that popped up once, is it really important? Is that something that we have heard a lot, or is it something that maybe we should nix from our message bank? All of that is just stuff that you should keep in mind as you're going through this. So now that we have our message bank, it's really time for the campaign strategy. And this is what we want to do before we actually go and create any sort of marketing assets. So before you write posts, direct messages, or you create any pieces of the campaign kit, you want to plan for what the campaign strategy actually is. So what this will do is it'll take our message bank and turn things into a direction to decide, okay, what message mattered most? What themes do we want to focus on? What objections do we really want to address? All of that. And if you skip this step, what happens is you'll start jumping into creating assets. Maybe you write a few posts or you send a few messages, but then there's just no structure. So we want to avoid that. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to pop back over into Claude now. Okay. Okay. So now what I need to do is I'm asking it to take this message bank and this brand pack advisory. I am so sorry. I must have like a little like cough or something. Okay. So I want it now to take the message bank that we created, and I want it to create a campaign strategy for marketing, CFO advisory, and CAS advisory services to for-profit business owners. And this is really what is going to bridge the gap between our research and our execution. I tell it what channels to focus on. I tell it about the target buyer. I want it to come up with my messaging pillars. I tell it objections to handle my content. And then I give it a 1-month campaign structure. So I want it to follow awareness, problem deepening, advisory, reframing, and then conversion. And I give it some content direction. So that's going to run, and it's going to be like, okay, I have your campaign strategy now. So at this point, I really just want to check to say, okay, is this direction, is it clear before I move into asset creation? And I'm going to go through it, and I want to make sure, like, do our core promises make sense? Do the messaging pillars feel strong? The objections, are they the right ones to address? So looking at it now, I see we got a question. How do you apply this if you are new to advisory and have no discovery calls? You need the ads to bring in discovery calls, but can't get ads to the call. Chicken and the egg. Robin, what I would do, and I think that this is a great question, if you're watching this and you're like, hey, I'm just starting my business, I don't have any calls and I need to start marketing, ask people, say, hey, I am wanting to work with, I'm going to use dental offices, and I want to help them with ABC. I'm wanting to make sure I'm offering the best solutions. Would you have 10 minutes for a quick call for me to interview you? Interview people, ask them about their problems that they're running into, what their desires are, what their hopes, dreams, wishes are. And you'd be surprised, a lot of people are willing to give you 10 to 15 minutes of their time. And that call will have a lot of the same information you need to create these outputs. So I think that that is something that everyone should do, even if you're really solid in your business. Like, constantly be curious, always be curious. And then we'll go to answer one more question is, if we aren't chasing high volume inbound leads, how do we adapt this content system to focus on authority and credibility rather than just targeting more leads, lead and reach? This question's a great one. You don't need to change anything because your content should always be about building authority and credibility. Now, if you're like, hey, I don't want to ask people to actually like book a call with me, that would be something that you could change. But the overall structure of building authority and credibility goes hand in hand with what this system will build for you. So I think that's a great question. Okay, so we're looking at our campaign strategy and we're going through this, seeing like, does this make sense? Target buyer. It seems like it nailed it. It's a founder operator running for-profit business between 1 million and 10 million. It has their like common frustrations, why they're open to advisory now, like something came up. It talks about our CFO advisory buyer, promises for the shared promise, helping business owners move from decisions or making decisions by feel to making them with confidence. Sounds exactly right. Pillars, your reporting works, your decisions don't. The businesses grew, the financial infrastructure didn't. Weighting's not neutral. So all of this sounds very, very reasonable. Of course, you have to go through it with your own discernment. You are in the business, you're talking to your clients every single day. You'll know if something is off. And remember, you can update this as you go by just opening up the document it created. So it'll be in your drive. Here's the campaign strategy. You can update it. But for time's sake, we'll keep going. So once I've gotten to the bottom of it, I'll say, okay, this all looks good. Let's go ahead. And now we want to get into more of the fun stuff, which is the actual campaign kit. Also, I just want to say these are great questions coming in. So if anyone's hitting like roadblocks or things as we're going through, kind of like that question about not having clients, I love those questions because if you have it, someone else probably does too. And so by you asking, you're helping other people as well. All right, the campaign kit. This is where the fun part comes in. So this is where we're like, okay, we actually want to create some assets. And what we're going to do specifically for this example here is we're going to create 12 LinkedIn posts. And then we want some 10 relationship first direct message or DM starters. And even if you're not using AI, this is something you should be doing. AI is just going to help you do this a lot quicker. So let's go ahead and jump back into Claude. This time I'm going to say, hey, use the message bank, the campaign strategy, the brand pack, and I actually want you to create my campaign kit. I say turn the campaign strategy into a month-long campaign kit for marketing CFO advisory and CAS advisory services to for-profit business owners in the $1 to $10 million range. I give it some other information like create 12 LinkedIn post drafts. I give it some structure rules. I also tell it to create my relationship first direct message starters. Lots of rules there about like what I would and wouldn't want to say. And then I give it some formatting rules, and it's going to say, okay, great. I have your campaign kit. And so now that we have our campaign kit, and I can actually see, okay, here are the posts we're going to use. Here are the direct message starters with the assets I can use throughout the month. And looking through this, like just talking about this first post here, it says, okay, something I hear pretty often from business owners in this range. They have monthly reports, sometimes a P&L, sometimes a full package. They sit down to review it, and then they still don't know what to do next. So this post, when I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, that sounds pretty good. But this is where we go back to that kind of like this, we don't want to just become that AI robot at all. And I'm not saying if you post this that you're immediately going to become that, but you really want to add I always call it your you-ness. So could you add a specific example like, hey, we talked about this client that did not know what to do next with their numbers. Can we talk about maybe how you help them and where they're at now? So give some more specifics. Or can you add in a photo of you reviewing reports, or you take a video talking about this? Doing nothing and using these posts as is, assuming they're accurate. Again, assuming they're accurate is better than doing nothing and being like, well, I don't want to take a photo, so I'm just not going to post it. But if you can make it you or add your story, add something, that's going to be what really helps you not become one of those just like AI slop posts that everyone's passing by, which this leads me directly to our next point is all about adding this visual layer. So this is what really helps people understand your content, understand your post is the visual layer. So when you add in this visual layer, you really make your content understandable. When you have this campaign kit, it's going to give you all the posts, but it's important that you add in the visual layer. So words, they're essential, but visuals, they just create an understanding that words alone cannot. And when you think about it this way, let's say a business owner, they're like, hey, cash is tight, but revenue's up. I don't really know what's going on. A post that acknowledges that, it's good. But if we can then take that post and we can show a cash flow trend that proves how you helped a certain client with this, and it tells the story of how you helped, it shows the story of how you helped. That's when someone's like, oh, okay, I really get it. Like, I feel this, I want that. And now I truly see how you help. So the rule I recommend, it's really simple, is one of your 3 posts per week, it gets a visual, 1 out of 3. In Reach Reporting, it's a great tool to use for this. The charts are clean, they're professional, and they are built to help with your advisory services. When adding these reports, you're not just screenshotting some messy spreadsheet, you're actually sharing something that looks like the advisory experience that they could have with you. And that's what we want to show. Looks like we got a good question. What if I don't have that visual proof yet? So if you don't have it yet right now, then Alicia, I would start going back to kind of like those interviews and talking. You could even use them as an example, like, hey, I talked with this business owner. Here's what they were struggling with. Here's some things that they should be thinking about and how they can help. And if you don't quite have the proof of you helping by, say, sharing a visual like this, maybe you make a demo of like, here's what that could look like. So you're not saying that these were your client results, but hey, here's what's possible. It's just all in the language. Someone said there's a demo company in Reach that you can play around with that's helped me. So that's a great example. You could use the demo to help show like, here's what's possible. Here's what we'd start changing and doing. That's our process when you work with us. Now, this personally is one of my favorite parts of the system, being a marketing person, because so often we can get the marketing right, but then there's this disconnect. There's sales. And I know a lot of accountants, they cringe when they hear the word sales, and honestly, marketing too. But when you have a process, it becomes a lot easier. So my goal is we don't want your marketing to say one thing and then you get on the sales call or your discovery call and it's sounding like something else. And then you have your follow-ups and those are sounding like something else. That's not what we want. We want everything to be connected. And when we build all of this from the same discovery calls that we gave the system at the beginning, the same buyer language, the same message bank, then these sales tools are going to be naturally aligned with the marketing. So now when the language someone sees in your content is consistent with what they hear on the discovery call, we have magic. So we're going to create 3 assets. We're going to create a discovery call guide that will help you ask better questions and explain the recommendation clearly. We're going to create an objection handling guide. So this helps you respond in a way that feels calm and consistent with how you've been positioning your services. And then we are going to create a post-call follow-up guide so you can keep the conversation going without suddenly sounding like pushy or off-brand. And again, like all these assets, you should have these whether you're using any AI tools or not. AI just helps us create them faster and without a doubt, they're going to be more accurate since it's pulling directly from the buyer language and we can continue with this system over time. So over time, you'll have even more and more information in it. All right. Let me go ahead and go into Claude. Okay. So now I'm going to say, basically, you're going to read everything we've done, the transcripts, the brand pack, the campaign strategy, campaign kit, brand pack, and I want you to create these 3 sales assets, the discovery call guide, objection handling guide, and post-call follow-up. And the goal here is really, again, just to make everything consistent with one another. We want our marketing to be consistent. So I give it plenty of rules around what to do when creating these. And once again, it's going to say, I have everything for you, starting with the discovery call. And like everything, AI gets you pretty far down the road, but you have to use your own discernment to be like, okay, is this me? Is this not? And a good example I can show you is like opening the call. Okay, it says, example opening, thanks for making time. I'll keep this simple. I'll ask a few questions to understand what's going on in the business. Then I'll tell you what I'd recommend. And can we talk through whether it makes sense to work together? Sound good? I think that's a great question, but I'm always a little bit more chatty than that. So I would definitely have some small talk before it. Some people might not. You know you best. And that's where the magic of adding yourself comes into play. So it goes through, it helps you understand their current situation, ask really good questions. We all know those people who you ask them a question and they're very like, yes, no, it doesn't go anywhere. So it gives you some nice probing questions if needed. It helps you surface the pain and friction, like what decision feels hardest right now. Again, if they're too vague, it helps you get them more specific, helps you determine the cost of them staying stuck, whole bunch of stuff. It even helps you like, hey, let's see, like, are they a good fit or are they not? And then basically, depending on if they are, if they aren't, kind of like, what should you say to either move it forward or if, maybe they're not the right fit, it helps you with that as well. So it even says not every call should close. A clear no is better than a dragged out process. So it helps you really elegantly move between whether it works out or not. I think it does a great job. And then again, you've got your objection handling guide, which I think that this is so valuable. We all know that we hear probably a lot of the same objections, whether that's price. Who's heard price? Let me know in the chat. Have you heard price? Or have you heard timing? So those are objection 1 and 2, and it helps you respond to those. Alicia, thanks for joining us. I see you have to jump on a discovery call. Okay, Joyce and Rusty say they've heard both of those objections before. Yes, so a lot of us have. And again, it's pulling from your calls to say like, okay, what were the objections? What was coming up? And then it gives you a post-call follow-up, which what this really is a document just to help you for those people who didn't move forward right away. Maybe they said, I need to think about it, those kind of things. It helps you craft some messaging around that. Now, something I did want to mention is as part of your discovery call, you can actually have reach reporting really support you with the sales process as well. So I did want to make sure to dive into that a bit. So as part of your sales process, again, we know that visuals are so important in our marketing. They're also very important in our sales process. And what you can do during your sales process is actually show a customized dashboard to your prospect, depending on their industry or, whatever would help them, and walk through it with them together so they can truly see what you can help with. For example, hey, here's where cash flow gets confusing for businesses like yours. And as you can see, here's how we can help. These are the kind of things we'd be showing you every single month, walking through with you. The whole goal is so that advisory becomes very tangible to them and you're able to deliver a better service. So with all of that, the distinction between you and either their existing accountant or another accountant they're talking with, it's very clear, like, okay, we know that people, they just want to understand their business and they want help growing it. And how can we show that we do that? Because the last thing they want to do is just get an Excel file with a bunch of numbers like this on the left. For most business owners, not all, but most are not, they did not go into it because they love looking at numbers. And so, imagine as a business owner seeing this before and after, the prospects understand they're no longer just getting that typical Excel file with a bunch of numbers. And they look at it and they're like, okay, I don't know what to do with this or how to make sense of it, but they get that dashboard on the right. And now they can see, okay, here's what it's going to be like working with you. And so this is a really powerful sales tool for you. People, they don't want to buy what they can't understand. And now when they see it, they can understand it. So reach supporting can be really powerful in your sales process. I will say one question that comes up a lot around reach reporting and the dashboards and the reports. They're like, hey, those look great, but I'm not a design expert. How can I go about creating them? Is that going to be difficult? And the answer is no, it won't be, because reach reporting has a ton of templates already ready for you based upon your industry and what kind of reports you're looking to create. So once you create an account, you'll truly be off to the races. And now that we made it this far, there's one last part of the system to talk about. And that is going to be measurement. And we do have one question we'll answer. Are emails better than text message follow-ups for this workflow? Totally up to you. You'll see in the prompts that it says to create emails. You can also say, hey, create text. The reason why we did emails is most people are more comfortable using emails, but text, especially depending on who you're working with, text could be better for you. That's a great question, Drew. Thanks for asking. Okay. Now we've made it to the last step in the process. And truthfully, a lot of people missed this step or they skip it, and they might post some content or send a few direct messages, or they have some calls, but they're never actually asking, okay, what is working? And the goal of measurement here is it's not to track everything, but it's to make sure we're understanding whether the system's doing three things: getting the right people to notice you, starting real conversations, and helping those conversations move into real sales opportunities. And I do want to say, if you're just posting content, that's not going to often lead straight to a booked call. Usually someone, they see a post, they visit your profile, then maybe they accept a connection request, and then maybe they reply to a direct message. And over time, that turns into a call. So we want to look at leading indicators first and sales indicators second. And what we'll do is actually help Claude figure out what this will look like in practice. So once again, we prompt it and we'll say, read basically everything we've created together and then create a measurement plan. And we give it some rules, especially with this goal. We don't want a spreadsheet. We don't want anything complicated. We just want something that can help us pay attention to the signals that matter most. And that's what we're going to create with this. And it should take 15 minutes a week is what we told it. So what it does is it says that pay attention to impressions, how many times your posts are being seen, comments, And specifically on comments, it's who is commenting. So if a comment is from a business owner that's not who you want to target, that comment's, 100 comments from the wrong people are not as valuable as 2 comments from the right people, which is kind of talking about here quality of engagement, profile views, connection requests, acceptance rate of connections, how many conversations we started, who is engaged. For on sales, look at calls booked, where they're coming from, show rate, proposal rate, close rate. And then this also tells us not just what to look at each week, but I like that it tells us what to change if something's off. So impressions are up, but no conversations are starting. It tells us what to do. Maybe comments are coming from the wrong people. It tells us what to do. So it really walks through like, okay, here's what to look at. And then what if it's not working? Let's figure out what to do. And finally, it says, it's not just about chasing numbers. We really want to understand like what's driving our business forward at the end of the day versus just views or something like that. As we talked about at the beginning, you still have to stay involved. So we really spent about 30 minutes here building this marketing in 30 minutes. But none of it is going to matter unless you show up. AI can really build a lot, but even if it's great, you're still required for building relationships and having conversations. Let's see. I did see one more question that can we repurpose these Claude prompts for our website and content? Yes, that's a great idea. So you could use the prospect language to strengthen your homepage messaging. That's a great idea, and you absolutely should. Now, you build the system once a month, but like, what do you actually do day to day? So here's a schedule that you can follow. Monday, you want to spend about 10 to 15 minutes reviewing the post that it comes up with, add your visuals, schedule the post, and then daily spend about 10 minutes commenting on posts from your prospects or referral partners or people in the industry you want to get seen by. 2 to 3 times a week, you want to spend 10 minutes sending direct messages to start continuing conversations. And then Friday, we want to do that review that we just talked about. So this is about 30 minutes a day when you consider actually building the system. But just don't forget the system, it'll build a lot of the assets, but you have to still stay involved. You have to update it to add yourself into it, and then you run the conversations. So you can do this, or you could always hand it to someone on your team or someone you hire and say, help me do this. And if you want to increase the volume later, you totally can. You could post more, comment more, send more direct messages, create more conversations. But the point is, you don't have to look at getting started as a huge time commitment. And so, as promised, every prompt, folder structure, brand pack, it's all available for free at leaders-online/Claude-cowork. And if you want help one-on-one, you can just go to leaders-online.com, or I'm also on LinkedIn, Katie Thomas, CPA. And Reach Reporting, I really encourage you to check them out for yourself. So you'll want to go to Reach. I pasted that a little bit wrong. There we go. reachreporting.com/webinar-demo, which I dropped in the chat, or scan the QR code. Reach is the #1 customer rated reporting app in the QuickBooks App Store, and it helps turn your reports into the visual layer your marketing and sales needs, and of course helps you deliver an amazing advisory experience week over week and month over month. So that is all from me. Are there any other questions I can answer for you? Just drop them in the chat. And I'll also drop, if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm on there pretty much every day. My name's Katie Thomas, CPA on there. Thanks everyone for joining.
This has been great, Katie. This is one of the things that we hear most from our clients is this is all great, but I don't know how to get more clients. And so hopefully this has been helpful for everyone. There is a survey that's going to pop up on your screen as soon as you leave. There's 3 simple questions, so we're just hoping to get a little bit of feedback, which will help us to navigate our future webinars. But just looking, and it doesn't seem like there's any other questions, but we will stay on for another minute or so to see if anybody has anything. So how do we get this material? So you can just scan the code there on the screen, or you can type in leaders-online.com/Claude Cowork. You can access it there. We'll also be sending some stuff out over email after this, along with the recording, so that you can use this and pause it and review it at your leisure. Thanks, Katie, for putting that in the chat. Just go ahead and click on that link, guys, and that's how you can get access to all these prompts and awesome material that Katie's prepared for us.
I'm excited for people to put it into practice, especially with adding those reach reports in.
Yeah, super powerful. How would I target this towards internal clients we already have and try to upsell them advisory services? Oh, great question.
Yeah. Rebecca, I love that question. What I would recommend is you could drop in your existing calls with them. Of course, sanitize them, do what you need to do for security purposes, and then run the prompts and ask it to help you upsell the services or find where their pain points are that you're not currently serving, or maybe what questions you could ask next time. It can be your guide to helping you manage those upsell conversations.
Yeah, awesome response. A lot of people, you have a ton of compliance clients, right? And how do you get them and convert them all into advisory clients? And so, yeah, that's a huge opportunity there.
Oh, I guess I can go ahead and still share that screen in case people are still needing it. There we go.
You message drafting content with AI. Are you seeing a shift towards AEO for LLMs like ChatGPT? Do you know this one?
Yeah, so that's huge. And what's interesting, there's a big shift towards AEO. The clicks on like Google and everything are way down because people are going to these LLMs to get their results. I actually just did some research around this, and LinkedIn is one of the top sources for LLMs. So that should encourage you to post there even more, of like, rather than just these LLMs pulling from your site, they're pulling a lot from other places, like LinkedIn being a top one, Reddit's another big one, which is just a sign that, they're recognizing people's attention as other places where they're getting information changes, and should be a good sign for you to create content on other platforms as well.
That's really interesting. I had no idea about
Yeah.
that. Tom asked if there's going to be a replay. I'm guessing that you're asking for a recording, and yes, there will be a recording. I'll send that out with the material after. Worth the
So
potential.
if their potential clients are on LinkedIn, or not on LinkedIn, they're on Facebook. Yeah, you can use the same prospect process for Facebook that you would just be using on LinkedIn. For finding people, it can be a little bit more challenging than like LinkedIn with Sales Navigator, but looking in like groups, you can find a lot of good people, or just using the search bar and using like Boolean, I think that's the word, search, like where you put like quotes around things that can help you find people. But groups, I would say, are the primary place to actually find people. So let's say you work with real estate investors, look for groups that are centered around real estate investors and go in there.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And as always, you can reach out to us directly if there's questions that come up after you're watching this webinar and after we leave today. So please reach out to us at support@reachreporting.com or via Katie's LinkedIn, or you can reach her at leadersonline.com. Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic day, and please fill out our survey. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
Bye.